Why do I still hear it? Oh, because it's on. There we go. What's up, everybody? Jason and Hokies, how you doing? Snortopus, how are you? A little casual Friday. No judges rope today. A little bit of baseball hat. I hope no one else is buffering. Buffeting. It looks good on my end, Hokies. Let me pull it up on my phone and see if it's buffering. Nope. Looks good to me. I think it might be you, Hokies. Hate to say that. Guys, don't forget to like the stream. Let's talk about this. Okay, so obviously a little bit of news this week. We're going to dive into that in a little bit while I try not to fall asleep because I was an idiot and said, hey, would it be fun to watch Everybody Loves Raymond all night? It was, but now I'm tired. So the first thing I want to do, hang on one second, guys. So yesterday was Thanksgiving. Incredible, beautiful, a very American holiday. Roots in so many different things. Obviously, you've got the first Thanksgiving and Squanto and all that. Whether or not you go all the way and believe every little thing that you're told in third grade or whatever it is, to believing that everyone just basically got lucky. Somewhere in the middle is the truth there. But I saw something on Twitter the other day. What's up, Mash? What is up, Bruce? I want a darkened website. Why does everyone make their websites like super white and this is better? This is from the good old Obama White House. So I saw someone on Twitter the other day that talked about how Thanksgiving was a pagan holiday, how it was an Americanized version of the harvest festivals that pagans used to have to celebrate, finishing the harvest season, a good crop, yada, yada, yada. And honestly, I don't know about y'all, but that really made me angry. This is a truly unique nation. There is no other like it in the world. There is a reason that everyone wants to come here. There's a reason that hang on. There's a reason that we as a people that have been here, we as citizens get so angry when we see people show up and act rude or be selfish or basically anything that you've seen in the past, I don't know, any news report about immigrants you've seen in the past year. And, let me make it clear, I'm not anti-immigrant in no way, shape, or form. I think if you are having a bad life somewhere and you want to go to somewhere where you see an opportunity, where you have an opportunity, I think you should try to do whatever you can to better your life. But if you're going to enter another nation, you need to do the stuff that nation does. Now, that doesn't mean that you have to give up your God or your gods or your language or anything like that. But what you have to do is you have to enter that nation knowing that your God or gods might be unpopular. Your language might not be spoken at all, if any, and that your way of doing things could be illegal. So, I mean, you don't see Christians enter China or Kazakhstan or Iran and tell them, no, okay, I'm here now. You have to do what I want to do. Dude, Hoagies, I'm really sorry, man. It's totally fine. Is this messed up for anyone else? Hoagies, is Jay's stream bad for you? Let me do. I mean, I don't have anything coming out of StreamYards that says, bad internet or anything like that. Hoagies, turn your computer off and turn it back on. Try that. I'll see you in a couple minutes. Where was I? Yeah, so I mean, you can go to any other nation. The truth of the matter is there are a lot of countries throughout this planet that, if let's say you live in war-torn Yemen, okay? There's a lot of countries you can go to and have a better quality of life. There just are. You can go to Germany, have a better quality of life. You can go to France. You can go to I mean, you go to Iran and probably have a better quality of life than you do in Yemen. But the thing that angers me about this, I'm trying to get back to Thanksgiving here, is you have people that suddenly decide. And there was a book someone wrote. I wish I remembered it. I want to read it. But there's a book that someone wrote in the 1700s, I think, that tried to tell the let's call it anti-church people, that sitting there and claiming that Christmas or Easter or yada, whatever, Valentine's Day, all that kind of stuff, are just Christianized versions of pagan holidays, is a really lazy version or really lazy way of looking at these holidays, and that they should actually spend time researching instead of just saying, hey, this is sort of like what these pagans were doing, so that means you've just co-opted it. When Thanksgiving and the harvest festivals that pagans had have very little to do with each other. We're not thanking God for, giving us first off, the first Thanksgiving was not thanking God for giving them a bountiful harvest. It was thanking God for surviving, for getting through an ordeal that none of them had any idea what it would be like. And so we have two examples of Thanksgiving here. We've got the Thanksgiving Proclamation of 1789 from the first president of the United States, George Washington. And I'm going to read it, and then I'm going to read the Lincoln one. And, given over a difference of 80 years, 73 years, 74 years, actually, I think. Whereas is the duty of all nations to acknowledge the providence of Almighty God, to obey his will, to be grateful for his benefits, and humbly to implore his protections and favor. And whereas both houses of Congress have, by their joint resolution or joint committee, requested me to recommend to the people of the United States a day of public thanksgiving and prayer to be observed by acknowledging with grateful hearts the many signal favors of Almighty God, especially by affording them an opportunity peaceably to establish a form of government for their safety and happiness. Now remember, this is 1789. This is 2 years after the Constitutional Convention. This is a year into George Washington's presidency. I think I'm right on that number. I think he would have been inaugurated in 89. This is, I gotta do math on the fly. 13 years after the Battle of Bunker Hill, 12 years after the signing of the Declaration of Independence. All of these, 13 years, and 14 years after Bunker Hill, 13 years after Declaration of Independence. Math was not my forte. What's up, Brisket? Unofficial rebellion raid. Well, hello, guys. Welcome. Drop a like. Don't forget to say hello in the chat. Now, therefore, I do recommend and assign Thursday, the 26th of November, next to be devoted by the people of these states to the service of that great and glorious being, who is the beneficent author of all the goods that was, that is, or that will be. That we may then all unite in rendering unto him our sincere and humble thanks for his kind care and protection of the people of this country previous to their becoming a nation, for the signal and manifold mercies and the favorable interpositions of his providence which we experienced in the course and conclusion of the late war, for the great degree of tranquility, union and plenty which we have since enjoyed, for the peaceable and rational manner in which we have been enabled to establish constitutions of government for our safety and happiness, and particularly the national one now lately instituted, for the civil and religious liberty with which we are blessed, and the means we have of acquiring and diffusing useful knowledge, and in general, for all the great and various favors which hath been placed to confer upon us. Wow, that's one sentence. George, I think you created the run-on sentence. I'm looking. Yeah. Wow, George, that is a lot to say there. It actually doesn't end. And also that we may then unite in most humbly offering our prayers and supplications to the great Lord and ruler of nations, and beseech him to pardon our national and other transgressions, to enable us all, whether to public or private stations, to perform our several and relative duties properly and punctually, to render our national government a blessing to all the people by constantly being a government of wise, just, and constitutional laws, discreetly and faithfully executed and obeyed. Wow. Doesn't that just sound so different from our government today? To protect and guide all sovereigns and nations, especially such as have shown kindness unto us, and to bless them with good government, peace, and concord, to promote the knowledge and practice of true religion and virtue, and the increase of science among them and us, and generally to grant unto all mankind such degree of temporal prosperity as he alone knows to be best. That's what Washington is saying here, is that we're going to take Thursday the 26th, which was Friday or Wednesday this year, to thank God for not only getting us through this war, but for allowing us to set up the governments that not only have we set up in our federal government, which would have been less than 2 years old, but also to set up the governments of the many states. Because you got to remember, not only had the Arts Federation not worked for the federal government, but a lot of the state governments suddenly weren't working either. So after this creation of the federal government, this tiny little speck of light, all the other states basically got together in kind of redoing their governments. What's up, Wicked Virtue? How you doing? I hope you had a great Thanksgiving. And that second pecan pie looked pretty good. Not gonna lie, looked pretty good. So you had these nations, these states set up their constitution that then mimicked our new constitution, the federal government's new constitution, because they realize that to start with, what am I trying to say? You had leaders in this country from George Washington all the way down to, Thomas Jefferson was still very much in helping lead Virginia. He had been asked to write several of the drafts of their constitution, and the entirety of these projects were an appeal to God to basically say, we have gone from the frying pan into the fire, and we are aware that without your mercy, without your help, none of this is going to be able to continue. This will fail. This will be the worst failure in political history without your help. And I mean, we're seeing that today, like the proof of all of that. So 76 years later, Abraham Lincoln gave a proclamation of Thanksgiving, and this is what is supposed to have really created Thanksgiving as we know it. That prior to this, and if anyone believes me to be wrong, correct me, but I'm pretty sure I'm right about this. Prior to this, it had been more of a, are we going to do it this year? Are we not? Or, let's see what the president proclaims, that kind of stuff. This is what actually created the federal holiday of Thanksgiving as we know it today. On October 3rd, 1863, proclamation by the President of the United States. This year that's drawn, and now remember, this is 1863, so the Union is losing the Civil War at this point. Like, it is pathetic. I think they've lost like 7 major battles in a row. What's his face? Robert E. Lee is hammering up towards D.C. He's about to sack the capital of the Union. The year that has drawn toward its close has been filled with the blessings of fruitful fields and healthful skies. To these bounties, which are so constantly enjoyed, that we are prone to forget the source from which they come. Others have been added, which are of so extraordinary a nature that they cannot fail to penetrate and even soften the heart, which is habitually insensible to the ever-watchful providence of Almighty God. They're saying that it's so easy to just ignore the providence that God has given us. It's so easy to just kind of go about your day and forget that just how lucky we are, not only to live in this nation, not only to have gone through 70 years of an experiment that never happened before, but to actually become a successful experiment. In the midst of a civil war of unequaled magnitude and severity, which has sometimes seemed to foreign states to invite and provoke their aggressions, peace has been preserved with all nations, order has been maintained, the laws have been respected and obeyed, well, and harmony has prevailed everywhere except in the theater of military conflict, while the theater has been greatly contracted by the advancing armies and navies of the Union. Let's not forget that Lincoln did suspend habeas corpus in Maryland. I mean, literally, and we're going to get into what Britain's doing as well. Oh, my God. Needful diversions of wealth and of strength from the fields of peaceful industry to the national defense have not arrested the plow, the shuttle, or the ship. The axe has enlarged the borders of our settlements, and the mines as well of iron and coal as of the precious metals have yielded even more abundantly than heretofore. Lincoln's usually a very good speaker. Heretofore, come on, man. Population has steadily increased, notwithstanding the waste that has been made in the camp, the siege, and the battlefield, and the country, rejoicing in the consciousness of augmented strength and vigor, is permitted to expect continuance of years with the large increase of freedom. Another thing we need to start doing, we need to start having babies. Oh, I look like I'm drunk off my ass right now. It's because it's all this white. It's so jarring on my eyes right now. No human counsel hath devised, nor hath. I'm going to skip through this. This is a little boring. It has seemed to me fit and proper that they should be solemnly, reverently, and gratefully acknowledged as with one heart and one voice by the whole American people. I do therefore invite my fellow citizens in every part of the United States, and also those who are at sea and those who are sojourning in foreign lands, to set apart and observe the last Thursday of November next as a day of thanksgiving and praise to our beneficent Father who dwelleth in the heavens. And I recommend to them that while offering up the ascriptions justly due to him for such singular deliverances and blessings, they do also with humble penitence for our national perseverance and disobedience, command to his tender care all those who have become widows, orphans, mourners, and sufferers in the lamentable civil strife in which we are unavoidably engaged and fervently imposed the interposition of the Almighty hand to heal the wounds of the nation and to restore it as soon as may be consistent with the divine purpose to the full enjoyment of peace, harmony, tranquility, and union. In testimony whereof I have hereunto set my hand, yada, 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 President of the United States, Secretary of State, thank you. Back to a little bit of darkness. There we go. So even Lincoln was aware that, we have achieved the great experiment, and to ignore the obviousness of the divine intervention that we have in this country is insanity. And obviously we've seen more and more and more and more of that go over the last 40, 50, 60 years, that it has all become, what have we been able to do? Look at what we've been able to do. We don't need no stinking God. And I mean, you can just see as that has happened, as that opinion and those thoughts have increased, that the fall of America has continued. All right, let me get to what Jason was talking about earlier. So obviously James Comey and Letitia James are on the thumbnail for one reason, because a federal judge threw out their indictments, because the prosecutor, the U.S. attorney that held the, held the grand jury, was not actually a U.S. attorney at the time, retroactively. So this is how it works. The president appoints a U.S. attorney. That person has 120 days to become agreed upon by the Senate, advice and consent of the Senate. Have 120 days to do that. When that does not happen, the court, the circuit court, in whichever, so if it's a South Carolina, let's say I think we only have one district here in South Carolina. Let's say it's a U.S. attorney for the state of South Carolina. If the Senate does not agree to that person within 120 days, then the Fourth Circuit gets to pick the U.S. attorney. Now, you can fire a U.S. attorney and then reappoint another one, which is what happened here. It does happen. It's not rare, but it does happen. Now, George Bush was famous for doing this. W, not senior. W was famous for doing this. And in 2007, the Congress got together and they imposed stricter limits on the president's ability to kind of fire and rehire to get around the 120-day limit. And because of that, that's what's kind of hamstringed. I don't even remember her name. I've got it here somewhere. What's up, Wasp? What's up, Marianne? How are y'all doing? Hope Jay had a nice, good old stream. I was asleep for most of it, so I missed it. I will need to go back and look at it. What was this lady's name? Anybody know? What was her name? Quite beautiful. Lindsay Halligan. So Trump appoints this lady to be the U.S. attorney for the Eastern District of Virginia. She basically gets up there and says, "I am not indicting James Comey." He says, "Oh, cool, you're fired," and hires Lindsay Halligan. Now, I do think he did this wrong. Lindsay Halligan's not the best decision or best choice. So one of the ways that you can get around the 120-day rule is by saying, we had disagreements, but I have fired this one, hired a new one. That starts the 120-day clock again. And that is true. However, the court is going to look at that hiring to make sure that it's not, hang on one second. To make sure that the president is not just hiring a yes man. And because that's what it looks like he did here, because in this case, it looks like Lindsay Halligan is just a yes woman. I think that's what the court is going to have to get through the most. And Jason, to correct you earlier, you did say that if they could, they would have refiled already. They're not refiling because they are appealing. So they are appealing that judge's decision to the full circuit. And then from there, they'll go to the Supreme Court if they have to. I promise you that. But this is rare. This does not happen a lot. God. Good to see you. That's what it is. Grunt, that's damn, that is deep, buddy. Hoagies asks, why would POTUS hire someone that does not want to do what they want them to do? If you hire them, they are on some level of yes man. So yes, U.S. attorneys are supposed to be the best people for the job. They're supposed to be qualified. They're supposed to be a sense of a yes man that they will do what the focus of the DOJ and the Justice Department is on. So yeah, to a sense, they're going to be yes men or yes women, but they cannot be solely hired so that they can do this, so that they will do one thing. And right now, it looks like that's the purpose of Lindsay Halligan, to be the one that will greenlight all of these indictments. Again, the federal government had a pretty good argument that even if she was not a legal U.S. attorney at the time, she still got the indictment. You still had a federal grand jury indict these people. So you should not be able to overrule the will of the people simply on what is, at the end of the day, a decision by the judge, because it's the judge that decided she's not a legal U.S. attorney. But that's the judge's opinion. I think it's going to be overturned by the full circuit. Now, I am embarrassed to say that the judge was sitting in Charleston, South Carolina, so it's our fault right now, but we'll get it fixed. Jason, because they can't refile. They cannot refile against James Comey because the statute of limitations has run. Now, I have found differing answers to this. And honestly, what I need to do is I need to call like a federal attorney of mine and see if he can give me an answer. A federal attorney friend of mine. But I've seen different answers to this question. So the question here is, does the statute of limitations toll, does it pause when you have an indictment? And I have found a Supreme Court case that says it does. I found a federal court case that says it doesn't. So the federal court case that says it doesn't is younger than the Supreme Court case that says it does. But the Supreme Court case I found, I don't see the oh, is this it? Hang on. Nope, not that. So I think it's the film. Is it? No. So it's United States v. McDonald that I found that says once we have a proper indictment, that stops the clock. So there is no need to look into the statute of limitations if a judge dismisses a case without prejudice, which is what this judge did, because the statute of limitations is paused, it's told, we're done. You never have to do it because that first indictment has, what do they call it? Has satisfied the statute of limitations forever. Now the question, what the government needs to do is they have to prove it was a good indictment, which means they have to prove that either she was an actual qualified good U.S. attorney, or they have to prove that despite her not being one, the court should still accept the indictment. So we'll see what the Fourth Circuit does. That's why they haven't refiled, because I think they want to maintain her legitimacy as a U.S. attorney. With Letitia James, they still have another 2 or 3 years. They can wait for that indictment. So that's why they haven't refiled for her, because they have plenty of time to play out the clock. What is the point of SCOTUS when the lower courts ignore the rulings? So here's the only real good example of the lower courts ignoring the Supreme Court decision in the last year is right after the Supreme Court said no. It was the one about kicking people out. I forget which one it was, but they issued a ruling basically saying, yes, the federal government can kick people out based on this. And a judge in Maryland, I think, said, yeah, that's all cool and all, but that does not affect my ruling in our previous case, in which then Trump appealed, or basically asked the Supreme Court to tell the judge, Yes, it does. He's gone. That's the only real example. All of these other judge rulings, all these other crazy judges that have appeared to be trying to circumvent the Supreme Court, they really aren't. And that's what kind of sucks about lawyerism and shit like that, is there's 1,000 ways to get around everything. And all they're really doing is looking at things in a different way now. That's how they're getting around it. It's going to be very interesting though to see what the courts in Oregon and Illinois do now, because they both, from what I remember correctly, they've both put on pause the National Guard deployments to Portland and to Chicago. And now that we've got someone shooting and killing National Guardsmen in the nation's capital, going to be kind of hard to argue around the Insurrection Act. So, I mean, I wouldn't be totally shocked to see the government push through on those in those hearings next week. I think they are. Jason, that's a bit much, man. To the Fed buildings in the cities, not to the city. Well, so that's the thing. I mean, they could absolutely do that. The Chicago or the California cases make it very clear that the National Guard can be deployed to. I see what you're saying, Jason, off of what Grunt said. The National Guard can be deployed to states, cities, everywhere to protect federal property. Very clear. And again, that's why that's why that idiot in California is an idiot, because he has created actual precedent. So dumb. Literally should have sat there and said, "Thank you so much for helping, Donald." None of this would have happened, and he would have been able to walk away with a win. Now he's got 2 losses on his record. God, what a friggin' idiot. They can't see past Donald Trump, and so all they want to do is hurt their people. God, I can't stand some of these governors. No, that's not important. Oh my God. What does Isaac set on his? Hang on. Oh. Damn, I was getting excited. Yeah, no. Jason, 100%. He's turned down in California. He needs, the only way he can go any higher is to maintain political credibility. And all they see out there in California is, I'm fighting Donald Trump. I'm fighting Donald Trump. Oh, that's what I wanted to get to. Oh, I'm so happy I started scrolling through Twitter. Holy shit, that's funny. Okay, this is not political or legal related, but is anyone aware of what's going on with Lane Kiffin in Ole Miss? Nope, not her. Him and him. Anyone aware? Okay, Grunch says no. Okay. Quick history. Lane Kiffin is the current head coach of Ole Miss. Ole Miss is doing really well now. And here we go, Risk It. Yes, Risk It knows. Okay, Risk It. I just saw this on Twitter. Breaking. Lane Kiffin is expected to resign as the Ole Miss head coach after reportedly accepting a lucrative offer from the United Kingdom to become the next King of England. In a related move, King Charles is expected to take over the LSU vacancy. Oh, that's fucking funny. Okay. We have a proclamation from the President of the United States. Hang on, this is how I should be doing it. Oh my God, so bright. I know a lot of people have already read this. A lot of people have already seen this. I don't need you. I can read. No. I can read. I don't need your help telling me what this means. From yesterday, this is, I think, about an hour after his press conference in which he revealed that the one of the National Guardsmen from West Virginia had passed away. A very happy Thanksgiving salutation to all of our great American citizens and patriots who have been so nice in allowing our country to be divided, disrupted, carved up, murdered, beaten, mugged, and laughed at, along with certain other foolish countries throughout the world for being politically correct and just plain stupid when it comes to immigration. The official United States foreign population stands at 53 million people from the census, most of which are on welfare from failed nations or from prisons, mental institutions, gangs, or drug cartels. They and their children are supported through massive payments from patriotic American citizens who, because of their beautiful hearts, do not want to openly complain or cause trouble in any way, shape, or form. They put up with what has happened to our country, but it's eating them alive to do so. A migrant earning $30,000 a year with a green card will get roughly $50,000 in yearly benefits for their family. The real migrant population is much higher. The refugee burden is the leading cause of social dysfunction in America, something that did not exist at blah, 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 blah. Sorry, pardon the stroke I just had. Something that did not exist after World War II. Failed schools, high crime, urban decay, overcrowded hospitals, housing shortages, and large deficits, etc. As an example, hundreds of thousands of refugees from Somalia are completely taking over the once great state of Minnesota. Somalian gangs are roving the streets looking for prey as our wonderful people stay locked in their apartments and houses, hoping against hope that they will be left alone. So one of the things that I have learned from all of this, I was not aware of just how many thousands and hundreds of thousands of people we have let into the country on refugee status. Like I thought, yeah, there's probably 20, 30,000 people in here that are just straight up refugees from something. But 80,000 Somalians, all because another group of Somalians shot down a Black Hawk in 1979. Sorry, 1997. Like, that blows my fucking mind. Why? Why do we let people from another country into this country just because other people in their country don't like them? No other country does that. This seriously, wow, I can't believe he actually said this. Well, we're 45 minutes in. Screw it. The seriously retarded governor of Minnesota, Tim Walz, does nothing, either through fear, incompetence, or both, while the worst congressman woman in our country, Ilhan Omar, always wrapped in her swaddling hijab, and our and who probably came into the USA illegally, in that you are not allowed to marry your brother, does nothing but hatefully complain about our country, its constitution, and how badly she is treated when her place of origin is a decadent, backward, and crime-ridden nation, which is essentially not even a country for lack of government, military, police, schools, etc. You know, one of the other things that was funny? Did y'all see, I think it was because of this post. It might have been because of something else, maybe a couple hours earlier than this. But suddenly Twitter got inundated with a bunch of, let's call it bots, talking about the great history of Somalia. I don't give a shit what a country did 1,000 years ago if that country is a shithole today. Somalia is shit. Our worst ghetto is better than Somalia. So to have the audacity and say, your country is 250 years old, Somalia is a nation stretches back to 2,000 years. Fuck off. Who gives a shit? Like, that doesn't matter. You know why England is so cool? You know why the British Empire is so cool? Because not only does it stretch back 2,000 years, but they actually have done shit in this decade. They actually still have great towering cathedrals. They actually still have huge swathing cities that show the incredible prowess of the English people. Maybe not this year, but once Nigel Farage gets in office and fixes that shit. But, like, how dare you? How dare you get on a platform created by Americans and then say Somalia is better because it's older? Fuck off. Afghanistan is older than both of them. Afghanistan's a shithole. Where was I? I think right here. Even as we have progressed technologically, immigration policy has eroded those gains and living conditions for many. I will permanently pause migration from all third world countries to allow this U.S. system to fully recover, terminate all of the millions of Biden illegal admissions, including those signed by Sleepy Joe Biden's autopen, and remove anyone who is not a net asset to the United States or is incapable of loving our country, end all federal benefits and subsidies to non-citizens of our country, denaturalize migrants who undermine domestic tranquility, and deport any foreign national who is a public charge, security risk, or non-compatible with Western civilization. These goals will be pursued with the aim of achieving a major reduction in illegal and disruptive populations, including those admitted through an unauthorized and illegal autopen approval process. Only reverse migration can fully cure this situation. Other than that, happy Thanksgiving to all, except those that hate, steal, murder, and destroy everything that America stands for. You won't be here for long. This is what we fucking voted for. Look, I said this, I think I said this last week about H-1B visas. There are people in this country on an H-1B visa that are a net positive. Now, where that number ends, whether it's 100%, which we know it isn't, or whether it's 0.00001%, it's somewhere in that middle, okay? I think it's much closer to that 0.001%, but there are people that are a net positive that want to be American. I'll give you an example. Did anyone see the video of the, I think he was Indian. He might have been like Iranian or something, but there's a guy, a foreigner over in the UK who someone recorded a video of him going, I don't want them over here. They don't, and he was talking about like the migrants and stuff like that, the refugees. He was saying they're not helping this country. I don't care. I came here to open this restaurant because I thought I could do good. I didn't come here to tell King George what to do. I didn't come here to tell y'all how to pray or anything like that. I came here because I wanted to make more money for my family. And that's not why they're coming here. They're coming here because they want to change your country. They're coming here because they want to change this nation that I love, and I don't want them here. That is an example of the net positive H-1B visa. Someone that comes to this country and says, this is what everyone else should be doing. Like, this is incredible. We don't need to change this. So, Idaho, that's going to go down as, I think, Trump's biggest complaint, regret, all that stuff. This is what I think Trump saw. I think Trump was given a memo by, I don't know, Scott or someone, Secretary of the Treasury, Secretary of HUD, something like that, that said there are 300,000 H-1B visas in the United States. And then he gets the definition for how you get an H-1B visa. Well, in order for a company to be able to qualify for an H-1B visa, an American has to not take that job. Now, we know that one of the things these companies are doing is they are posting these jobs for 30 or 40% below market value. They're doing everything they can to prevent an American from taking the job so that they can go pay an Indian guy 20 cents on the dollar. I think Trump saw this, not knowing that. Now, obviously, you sit there and go, he should know that. He should, absolutely. This is a big old fumble by Trump. This is genuinely, in my opinion, I think this is worse than his Epstein stuff. I really do. But I think he was handed information that he did not understand. And he understood it to say this, which was that, and theoretically, that is what the data says. The data does say that there are not technologically advanced people in this country because those people don't have these jobs. If there were, let's use give me a job. I'll give you an example. Okay, Ford Motor Company released a statement or told who was it? Who is the? Hang on, let me look. I need to look at the cabinet. Did I just do something? Let's see. Trump's cabinet. I want to get the person right. I need photos. Dumb question. Is the vice president part of the cabinet? I guess he is. I don't think I ever really considered him part of the cabinet. Let's see. Told. No. It's a terrible picture of Pam Bondi. Maybe Jameson Greer. It might have been Jameson Greer. It might have been Sean Duffy. But Ford called up one of these guys, and basically Jameson Greer is the U.S. Trade Representative, and Sean Duffy is the Secretary of Transportation. He called up one of these guys and basically said, hey, I'm going to let y'all know that we have like 300,000 job openings for, let's call it level 2 mechanic. That okay. Peace out, Idaho Mike. No, I mean, he doesn't know everything. The president doesn't know everything. Like, I understand why we think he should, but no president has ever known everything. That's why they have a cabinet. So they have specialized people in charge of specialized industries, specialized avenues of the government, so that they can report to the president. There's a reason why when he did the H-1B visa thing back in, what was it, January, that they backed off a lot on that because someone came up to him and said, "Yo, dude, you're this is not right." Now I don't know why he ended up again in the same really stupid H-1B visa camp, but so Ford calls up this guy. I'm going to say it's Sean Duffy, and says, we've got like 300,000 mechanic positions open that no one will take. And they're at like 6-figure salaries. And that's true. There's a lot of open positions at the Ford Motor Company that pay really well that no one will take. But it's not because we don't have qualified people here in the country to do it. The guy that works down at the Take 5 that's 30 minutes away from me would probably be able to do most of those jobs. The problem is none of them want to live in fucking Detroit. That's why they can't fill them. Because no one wants to live in Detroit, Michigan. Detroit was the king of this country. Motor Company, Motown was the greatest place. It was the epitome of a city on a hill. And then the 1960 riots burned the city down, and it has been a shell of what it was. And I don't know if Ford's not doing what they should do in the city and try to root out the corruption and all that stuff. Brisket's right about that. Southerners are not built to live in northern climates. I love my cold. I really do. I love when it gets cold here in South Carolina. But if I had to deal with this every day, nah. But that's where I think that's where I think the problem here is. I think you've got a whole lot of people, and Caleb, what's his name? The financial dude. You know who I'm talking about? Caleb Hammer from Financial Audit. He's been talking about this for like probably the last month, I think, that one of the reasons we don't have the public transportation systems that European cities have is because they're not safe. He posted a video the other day or last night of posted a video last night of the Dallas airport, I think. Basically the exit ramps from the Dallas airport. And it's just packed with traffic. And he was talking about how, there are 3 trains that go from the Dallas airport to, parking areas that are like 20, 30 minutes away so that you can avoid having to sit in that traffic. But people won't ride them because the trains aren't safe. Now, the second the rule of law gets back into every facet of our citizenry, every facet of our lives here in this country, I think you see a lot of stuff. Look, I think a high speed rail, New York to LA, DC to Dallas, I don't have a particular issue with that. The problem is, as we've seen in California, there's way too much of a chance of corruption in these projects. Construction in general has way too much of a chance of corruption. And I don't want my taxpayer funds going to line the pockets of more, let's call them oligarchs, until I know that that's just not going to happen. And my favorite example of this is y'all remember when I think it was the UN, the someone at the UN, it was probably like the Secretary General or something, talked about how he was disgusted that Elon Musk was spending $46 billion on Twitter, and for a fraction of that he could solve world hunger. And Elon Musk said, "I'll give you $6 billion right now, but you have to make the accounts open sourced, and you have to allow everyone to be able to access where the money went." And he said no. Secretary General said no. And that's how you know it's not about helping people, it's about lining their own pockets. Whether it's the Secretary General of the United States, whether it's the governor of California, they don't actually care. They don't care about the people. Governor Newsom doesn't give a shit about the homeless problem in California. All he cares about is getting another $78 billion from the federal government, so that he can funnel $50 billion of it into his super PACs and into the NGOs of his friends. Does not give a shit. It's going to be fun to see the courts that say Donald Trump's not allowed to stop importing from the third world. Immigration solely within the purview of the President of the United States. Literally, the only thing I think the president would not be able to say is basically say whites only. I genuinely think that's and I mean, he'd probably have to come up with a definition of third world. Obviously, we all kind of know what third world countries are, but he's going to have to come up with a list. And man, he's going to need to put some white countries on that list, because if it's all like Muslim or brown countries, there's no way it's getting past the judge. Somebody you know what, risk it? If they would just be honest about it. I wouldn't like them, but I don't know if I would say I'd respect them, but it would be less like I wouldn't groan every time I see it. They will. And Risk It is right. We are real close over here to where are we at right now? 492. Oh, so close. If I hadn't been lazy this week and hadn't done any videos, we probably would have hit it by now. But I was lazy this week. I didn't feel very good when I got home from hanging out with Star Wars stuff. And hours wise, over 2,100 hours. So I'd love to get there by the end of the year. That'd be cool. I can't believe he called Tim Walz seriously retarded. I mean, he is, but I just can't believe he said it. That's hilarious. See, what's his name should not have. Grant, you have a great time over there, man. I'm getting ready to end it in a little bit anyway. Barack Obama should not have received a second term at all, because everyone should have united against him the second that butch of a wife of his got up there and said, "For the first time in my life, I am proud of my country." Bitch, you're a millionaire. You were a millionaire before you hit office. Before your husband hit office. And you have the audacity to call you say this country is a bad country. The only thing, what is that? Who's that guy? Is it John Day? Videos. No, I thought it was this Bill Burr thing, but no, I forget who it was. But someone was doing this comedy joke about how she had the audacity to complain about this country, and this country has done nothing but make her richer and richer every single day. So it disgusts me when these people, whether they're white, black, Republican, or Democrat, get out there and say that this is a bad country. Fuck you. Okay, guys, I'm going to end it there. I cannot raid, because we're not monetized over here yet, but go hang out with Gene G. Tell them hello. We'll have videos coming out next week, more live streams. It'll be a fun time. Thank you all so much for being here. Don't forget to like, don't forget to subscribe, and leave a comment on the videos. And I'll see y'all